Innovation and Design Center and Institution Innovation Council, Amity University, Uttar Pradesh. I, Dr. Nidhi, welcome all the esteemed dignitaries, honorable guests, and our students, our faculty member, and 6-week technology entrepreneurship development program on organic farming and biofuels. We feel delighted to welcome our guest of today, Mr. Rahul Sachdeva, Manager SBA Capital Markets. Mr. Sachdeva is having more than 6 years of experience in investment banking, corporate finance, financial modeling, forecasting income statement, cash flow statement, balance sheet valuation, and M&A strategy consulting and HSBC investment banking. Now I request Mr. Rahul Sachdeva to present his talk on the topic profitability and balance sheet. So we welcome you, Mr. Rahul Sachdeva. Now you can start your session. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for the kind introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. So I will just share my screen. I hope the slides are visible.
Yeah, it is visible.
Yes, sir.
Sure. So I'll be talking about the topic financial statements and profitability analysis today. But before that, I would like to briefly introduce myself. Overall, I have more than 8 years of experience, but post MBA, I have now 7 years of experience into investment banking, corporate finance, and strategic consulting domains. So currently, I'm working in SBI Capital Markets, and I have experience in other big financial firms like EY and HSBC as well. And I have also started to work as a part-time freelancer in which I mentor students and young professionals like you all to upskill their career and to guide them, specifically in finance domain, but overall, as a guide and mentor as well. Regarding my educational qualification, I have done BTech in ECE from MIT School of Engineering and Technology, and I passed out in 2011. And I have done full-time MBA in finance from IMT Ghaziabad, and it was a 2-year course. So moving on, first of all, I would like to establish why finance is important for everyone to understand. As you will be starting with your journey as an entrepreneur, your primary objective will be to generate profits, right? So some of you might want to do something for community as well, but at the end of the day, business is always about profits and cash flows. And basic knowledge of financial terms is necessary for everyone in every field, in every domain. If you go for your higher education and do your MBA or MTech, even then, whenever you grow in your career, eventually you have to deal with these financial terms. Your company would require you to understand basic profit and loss statements or balance sheet of the company, or basic cash flows. So it's better to start early and have some awareness about these financial terms. And startup founders who started out early and who are most successful, like the founders of Flipkart, Mr. Kalan Krishnamurthy, he's an ex CEO of SoftBank. It's one of the biggest financial banks in the world. So startup founders or people in mostly in every field who are successful, they possess very sound financial knowledge. And reverse is also true. Most startups fail due to lack of financial awareness among its key executives. Whether you are a CEO of a company or co-founder of a company or CFO of your company, you need to understand how to manage your cash flows and how to take your business forward. So that's finance is very critical in that sense. Regarding you are gaining your technical skills now. I know that all of you are doing BTech and are in second or third or fourth year of engineering. I have also passed through that phase, but I have understood that at a very late stage in my life that finance is also a key element to be a successful entrepreneur or professional, whatever your career path will shape up. So having that fact established that finance, you cannot escape finance, the questions that we would like to get answered today are, first, what are the basic financial statements for any company? There are three basic financial statements. What exactly are those, and what are the key terms that you need to be aware of in each of these statements? What are the common metrics you will be using to analyze profitability of your company? To compare if your company is more profitable or not vis-a-vis some other company, or vis-a-vis its previous years, if you are making some progress on profitability or not. What are the key metrics that should be highlighted? And lastly, we'll be talking about certain new profitability metrics that have come up with the evolution of startup ecosystem in our country in last, say, 10 years. So at the end of this session, so this is our end game. We would like to answer all these three questions by the end of this session. So keeping that in mind, I have divided my session into two parts. First, we'll be talking about financial statements. What are the basic financial statements and their key terms? And after that, we'll talk about profitability metrics, right? And I urge all of you to, if you have any queries, just ask me then and there, because it's not a theoretical kind of a session. It's something which you will be using it in practice, at some point in your career. So it's better to have your doubts clear right then and there rather than waiting till the end. I'll be happy to answer. So starting with financial statements, there are three types of financial statements which every company, and by every company I mean every company in this world, needs to follow. There are no two ways about it. All the companies in the world, you look at their annual reports or whatever earning reports that they report, they would contain these three statements always. First one is income statement, which reports how much a company has earned in a period of time. We'll talk about each of these statements in detail, but here I'm just giving an outline. Second financial statement is balance sheet. It summarizes what a firm owns and what it owes to others at a particular point in time. I will explain what that means. Third is cash flow statement. It reports how much cash has come into the company and how much cash has it spent, or what was the cash outflow during a period of analysis. Now, when I say period of analysis, this period can be a month, a quarter, half year, or an annual. Most of the companies, they report their earnings on a quarterly basis, and then finally at the end of the year in the form of an annual report. So starting with income statement. So this is a general structure of an income statement, which you will find in almost all of the company's reports. So what an income statement shows is how much revenue you have earned, and correspondingly how much net income you have made on those revenues in a particular period of time. Let's say in a quarter or half year or an annual basis. So I know it looks like a lot, but believe me, it's very simple. So all the companies report their numbers in an income statement, and they start with revenues. So by revenue, what is revenue? Revenue is something which you have earned by selling a good or a service, right? And after that, they deduct cost of goods sold to arrive at gross profit, right? So let's understand this with a very simple example. Let's say you are starting your own business, and your business is to buy some pencils and sell those in return, right? So you will be buying pencils and selling them at a profit. So that is your business, very simple. So let's say in a particular year, in first year of your operations, you bought pencils worth rupees 50,000 and sold them for rupees 1 lakh, right? So what will be your revenue? Your revenue for the year will be rupees 1 lakh. Very straightforward. But what was your cost? Cost of selling those pencils. You bought pencils worth rupees 50,000. So your direct cost of those pencils that you have sold is rupees 50,000. So your gross profit is again rupees 50,000. 1 lakh minus 50,000, right? But is that your net income? No. I mean, you can't say that you will have rupees 50,000 in your bank account at the end of the year. No, because apart from that direct cost of 50,000, you would have incurred some indirect cost as well, which are of two types. First one is operating expenses. So when you have bought the pencils, it's not like you have bought them today and sold them all of those today itself. No, it's over a period of time. So you bought your pencils at the start of the year, and over a period of time you appointed certain staff. You paid your electricity bills of your company, and you did some research as to what exactly will be the right market for your pencils to sell. So all those expenses, they are categorized as operating expenses. They are not you didn't use those expenses to buy pencils, but you use them to sell your pencils, right? So any selling, general or marketing expense and research and development expense that you incur are classified as operating expenses, and you need to deduct those expenses as well from your gross profit. So coming back to our example, if our gross profit was rupees 50,000, and let's say you incurred rupees 20,000 as your operating expenses in the year, so now your operating profit would be rupees 30,000, right? And so now we are at this operating profit line, which is this EBIT, earning before interest and taxes. You don't need to remember this term EBIT. You just remember what is operating profit. So we started with revenues, we deducted direct cost, we arrived at gross profit, then we subtracted operating expenses, and we arrived at operating profit. Now, last set of expenses that you need to classify are financial expenses, which is, so let's say you borrowed a loan, right? You borrowed some money from a bank to purchase the pencils. You purchased pencils worth 50,000 at the start of the year, and you didn't have 50,000 from yourself. You borrowed some money from bank. Now you have to pay an interest expense to bank as well, right? So it can also be zero if you don't have any loan from the bank. But in most of the when most of the companies achieve scale, they tend to take some loan to achieve scale, right? So interest expense is almost always there in every company, and of course taxes. You have to also pay taxes. You cannot escape from taxes, and you have to deduct those expenses as well to arrive at your net income. So let's say out of 30,000 operating profit, your interest expense and your taxes were respectively 10,000. So finally you have deducted those 20,000 rupees extra, and your net income now would be rupees 10,000 only, right? So we started with revenues of rupees 1 lakh. We had incurred a direct cost of rupees 50,000. We had a gross profit of rupees 50,000. We had operating expenses of 20,000, which gave us our operating profit of 30,000. We incurred 10,000 as interest expense and 10,000 in taxes. So that leaves us with net income of just rupees 10,000. So at the end of the day, you can say that your net income was rupees 10,000 on revenues of rupees 1 lakh, right? So the key terms to remember from income statement are revenue, gross profit, operating profit, and net income. These are the 4 key terms, right? So it takes time to, I know it takes time to absorb such new terms and new thing, but let's move on, and things will get clear. So I have also included some sample income statements for your reference. So this is an income statement from SAP Group. I know this is from the technology sector. That's why I've included that. And you would have heard about this company, SAP. So this is how companies generally report their income statement in their annual reports. So on the right hand side of the figure, you can see years 2009, 2008, and 2007 to observe the trend, how its revenues and other profits have been moving. But you don't need to look at all these line items. You just look at this total revenue, right? Revenue is there. So the companies normally tell how they earn their revenue. So in this case, it earns via software, selling of software, some support services. That is not of use for us for today's session. But what is of interest is that the total revenue was this much in year 2009, and at the bottom, you would see total operating expenses, right? What we just saw in previous slide. And after deducting those operating expenses, they arrive at operating profit. And after that, they deduct financial expenses, which are their interest expenses, to arrive at profit before tax. And after paying some income tax, they finally arrive at profit after tax, which is net income. So on revenue of approximately $10.6 billion, their net income was just $2.4 billion. I'm sorry, $1.7 billion. This is profit after tax, right? So I would like you to remember this number. This net income for SAP Group was $1.7 billion for 2009. We will use this number, in later slides, and I'll tell you how it will be compared against some of the other elements. Now moving on, second part of your financial statements is balance sheet. Now there are three main components of this balance sheet. I have highlighted them in red. On the left hand side, there are certain assets, and on the right hand side, there are liabilities and equity. So what is the purpose of a balance sheet in a company's statement? Balance sheet shows how much a company owns to itself. Those are called assets, and these assets are used to generate revenue. You can't just generate revenue on their own. You would need to have some manufacturing plants in place, factories in place. You will have to buy some land or some computers, laptops for your employees. So all those things are your assets which enable you to earn your revenue. So on one side of the balance sheet, there are assets, and on the other side of the balance sheet, there are certain liabilities and equity which your company owes to others. Now, what is a liability? Liability is something which you are obliged to pay to others, right? So there are two types of liabilities. One is debt, the money that you borrow from banks or other non-banking financial institutions. And other is equity, money that you put in yourself. So if we continue with our example of buying and selling pencils, so you had bought pencils worth rupees 50,000, right? Now where did that rupees 50,000 come from? Either you would have to arrange that 50,000 rupees all by yourself, through your savings, bank account savings, or through your family members. If that is the case, then 50,000 rupees is your equity, right? That money that you bring in from your own equity. But let's say there was a scenario in which you had just rupees 30,000 and you were short of rupees 20,000. So what you do, you go to a bank and borrow 20,000 rupees. So in that case, your debt part, and all this, just to be clear, all this is from a company's perspective. This balance sheet, this income statement, and the other statements all will be from the company's perspective. And a company is a separate entity altogether from you. It's not like whatever bank balance you have in your account will be counted towards your company's account. No, whatever balance you infuse in your company will be your company's balance. So let's say if you have rupees 1 lakh in your bank account, but you choose to infuse only rupees 30,000 in your company. So your company's equity will be rupees 30,000, right? And you borrow 20,000 from a bank. So your company's debt will be rupees 20,000 that it is supposed to repay to the bank, right? So now on the right hand side, you would say, so I'm just continuing with the example. There is a debt of rupees 20,000 and equity of rupees 30,000. So the total liabilities will be of rupees 50,000, right? And this balance sheet by itself means that things should match. Assets on the left hand side should always be equal to sum of liabilities and equity, or debt and equity on the right hand side. I've also written that equation. Assets are always equal to liabilities and equity. And there is no excuse for this balance sheet to not match. A balance sheet should always match. That's it. So if you have 50,000 rupees as sum of your debt and equity on the right hand side, then there will be some assets worth rupees 50,000 on the left hand side. So now you have brought in some money into your company, right? 50,000 rupees in your company. So what will be your asset? And you have not spent that amount yet. You have not bought pencils using that amount. So what will be your asset? Your asset will be cash. So your company has cash of rupees 50,000. Now consider this scenario on day one. You have brought in rupees 30,000 from your own bank account, 20,000 from as a loan from some other bank. Liability and equity is 50,000, and you have cash worth rupees 50,000 as your asset as on day one of your company, right? Next day, you use that cash to buy some pencils. You have bought pencils worth rupees 50,000. So your asset side will change. Cash will get replaced by pencils, but the balance sheet still matches. On the asset side, you will have uh, cash or pencils worth rupees 50,000, and on the liability side, you will have debt worth rupees 20,000 and equity worth rupees 30,000. So this is how a balance sheet works. There are three key terms to remember from this balance sheet: assets, liability, and equity. And I hope I was somewhat able to, make you understand these three key terms, because more often than not, you will get to come across these terms like operating profits or assets. What are the assets of your company? How much equity you have infused? So you will come across these companies as and when you start your business. So till now, any questions? I mean, I would like to wait for 10-15 seconds if there are any questions. Otherwise, I will move ahead.
So as you discussed that liability is a sum of equity and debt, right?
Sorry, it's
So
assets.
liability is a sum of debt and equity, right?
Right. On the right hand side, yes, you can say liability is a broader term in which there are two components, debt and equity.
Yes. So but liability is same as what you mentioned as a capital. It's both the same thing.
Yes, you can. Yes, that's exactly right. So there are two types of capital, debt and equity. Your company can have funds only in these two forms: equity, which is what you will bring in, and debt, which it will borrow from banks.
So but when we put this formula in the upper side, asset equal to liability plus equity. So there will be debt plus equity plus equity.
No. Don't get. See, this liability it's an interchangeable term. So some of us in finance domain, we loosely use liability just for debt and not for debt plus equity. Right. So in this particular equation, liability is equal to debt.
Yes, sir.
But on the right hand side, when I say liability as a broader term, it includes equity as well. Most of the companies, they mention liabilities plus equity on their right hand side, and some of the companies mention just liability, but debt is a part of liability. So this is what I got from SAP's balance sheet. That's why it's written like this. I know it can be quite confusing. Liability has two components, debt and equity, and asset is always equal to debt plus equity.
All right. So that means it's vary from form to form.
It varies. So this is a play of terminology.
Yes.
Right. So just understand it intuitively. You have raised some money from banks or you have brought in some money from yourself. That's it. Whatever you have raised from outside is your debt, and whatever you have brought in yourself is your equity. And you can only use those two types of funds to buy your assets. Assets will always be equal to capital from this equation.
Yes, sir.
Got it?
Yes, got it. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Moving on. So this is SAP's balance sheet. This is a very simplified balance sheet. I think your doubt will be clear from this particular slide. See, SAP's balance sheet as on 2009, its total assets were worth rupees 13.374 billion, and its total equity and liabilities were worth 13.374 billion as well. So balance sheets match. and the split of that equity and liability was liability plus equity, and liability is equal to debt. Right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now
Can
I have, is there any other question?
So can you explain again the last slide? I didn't get that.
So as I mentioned in my previous slide, a balance sheet has three components: assets, liabilities, and equity. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So assets, so this is an example for SAP Group. Its assets were worth rupees 13.374 billion. So if you see this total assets line, total assets row, they were 13.374 billion worth, right? In 2009.
Yes, sir.
Now, if you look at the last row of this slide, equity and liability, sum of equity and liability, it's again 13,374. Okay, so assets always match sum of equity and liability or equity and debt. Liabilities and debt, these terms are used interchangeably for most of the firms.
Okay.
Okay, and if you want to see further what exactly were equity and what exactly were liabilities, you can see that as well. Total liabilities were worth rupees 4,883 US, euro billion dollars. SAP is European company, so it's in euros. So this is the amount 4,883 that it owes to banks or non-banking financial institutions from which it has raised this amount. And its total equity is worth 8,491 euros, which it owes to its owners.
Okay.
Right? Its owners, which would have founded this company or are now current shareholders of this company, would have right to this 8,491 euros.
Okay.
Right? Because they can only have claim on that particular amount which they have brought in, that is equity.
Okay.
And this 4,883 euros, they have to, the company SAP has to repay to their banks or lenders.
Okay.
Right. So essentially what you can say is that first the company raised 13,374 euros from two sources, debt and equity, and used that money, 13,374, to buy some assets. And that's why assets value is also 13,374. That's why they always match. So you raise funds and you use those funds to buy some assets, and your assets in turn generate your revenue. So that's how it works, right? You can't just generate revenue by itself. You need money to generate revenue, and that money is raised from two sources, either debt or equity. And using that money, you first buy some machinery or plants or land, whatever. Those are your assets, and then you use that machinery to generate some product, and you sell those products to earn revenue. And when you earn revenue, you earn profit, and then you either take out that profit from the company and pocket it yourself, or you reinvest that money into your business. So that's how the cycle works.
So, like which revenue we earned, so it's on the equity and liability parts. It's for the total equity. Like सर जो कि हमने जो अभी लाइक के हमने अर्न करा है, ठीक है, और तो सर जो इसमें टोटल इक्विटी दिखा रहा है सर, ये वाले पार्ट में आएगा हमारा?
नो सो होगा ये कि आप स्टार्टिंग में आज आपने बिजनेस खोलना है, ठीक है, आप इन नंबर्स को भूल जाइए, हम अपना एग्जांपल लेके चलते हैं पेंसिल्स वाला, ठीक है।
ओके सर।
आज आपने बिजनेस अपना खोला, आप इक्विटी अपनी लेके आए 30,000 रुपए की, ठीक है, आप अपना बैंक से आपने बोरो किया 20,000 रुपीज, तो टोटल आपका इक्विटी एंड लायबिलिटी कितना हो गया? 50,000।
सर बोरो हमने 30 कराना,
बोरो आपने 20 किया और अपना 30 लाए,
तो सर इक्विटी वाला पार्ट है सर, वो तो जो हम ओन करते हैं, तो सर वो 30 करते हैं ना?
हाँ एग्जैक्टली। सो आप 30 लाए अपना कैश, 30,000 आप कंपनी में डाल दिया आपने,
ओके।
ठीक है, और आपने बैंक से बोरो लिया 20,000, वो भी आपने कंपनी में डाल दिया पैसा।
ओके।
तो अभी कंपनी के पास 50,000 रुपए पड़े हुए हैं, अभी उस पे कुछ रिवेन्यू अर्न नहीं हुआ है, आपने उस 50,000 को भी यूज नहीं किया है, वो अभी उसके में पड़े हुए हैं।
यस सर।
ठीक है, अब आप क्या करोगे, अगले दिन जाके उस 50,000 रुपए की 50 पेंसिल्स ले लोगे।
यस सर।
ठीक है, आपने वो 50,000 रुपए खर्च कर दिए।
ओके।
तो अब आपकी एसेट की साइड पे क्या आ जाएगा, आपकी पेंसिल्स, क्योंकि अब कंपनी के पास वो एसेट है जिसको वो यूज करके रिवेन्यू कमा सकती है।
यस सर।
ठीक है, तो एसेट के साइड पे आ गया 50,000 रुपए की पेंसिल्स, और लाइबिलिटी एंड इक्विटी की साइड पे तो 50,000 रुपए है ही ऑलरेडी।
यस सर।
ठीक है, तो आपकी बैलेंस शीट उस दिन मैच हो गई,
यस।
लेकिन अभी भी आपने रिवेन्यू अर्न नहीं किया। क्यों? क्योंकि अभी आपने पेंसिल्स बेची नहीं है, आपने बस खरीद के रखी हुई है।
ओके।
अगले दिन जाके आप 50,000 वाली पेंसिल्स 1 लाख रुपए में बेचाए।
ओके।
ठीक है, तो अब आपका रिवेन्यू कितना हुआ?
50,000।
नहीं, रिवेन्यू आपका पूरा 1 लाख रुपए हुआ,
ओके।
50,000 आपका प्रॉफिट हुआ।
प्रॉफिट हुआ। ओके सर।
ठीक है, तो ये डिफरेंस है, रिवेन्यू आपका 1 लाख रुपए हुआ, 50,000 आपका ग्रॉस प्रॉफिट हुआ। नाउ देयर आर 3 टाइप्स ऑफ प्रॉफिट, जो हमने अभी देखा ना, हमने अभी इनकम स्टेटमेंट में देखा था।
यस सर।
50,000 आपका ग्रॉस प्रॉफिट हुआ, उसके ऊपर से आपको वो खर्चे भी लगाने पड़ेंगे जो आपने पेंसिल को बेचने के लिए किए होंगे। आप खुद जाके तो पेंसिल बेचने गए नहीं होंगे, आपने कुछ मार्केटिंग की होगी पेंसिल्स की, कि हमारी पेंसिल्स इतनी अच्छी है, इतना लंबा चलती है। आपने कुछ सेल्स पर्सन अपॉइंट किए होंगे, उनकी सैलरी दी होगी, कुछ आपने इलेक्ट्रिसिटी का बिल दिया होगा आपकी कंपनी का।
यस सर।
तो ये आपके सारे ऑपरेटिंग खर्चे हैं, ऑपरेटिंग एक्सपेंसेस बोलते हैं इनको।
ओके।
ठीक है, तो आपको वो सब भी माइनस करने हैं। फिर आपने, तो ये एक्सपेंसेस मैंने एग्जांपल में शायद बोला था कि फॉर एग्जांपल 20,000 रुपीज के थे, तो आपका ग्रॉस प्रॉफिट 50,000 का था, उसमें से आप 20,000 माइनस करेंगे एंड ऑपरेटिंग प्रॉफिट आपका 30,000 का आ जाएगा।
उसके बाद टैक्सेस लेस करेंगे।
उसके बाद आपने 20,000 रुपए बैंक से बोरो भी कर रखे हैं, है ना, तो उस पे आपको इंटरेस्ट तो देना पड़ेगा, आप किसी का भी पैसा फ्री में यूज नहीं कर सकते।
यस सर।
यू ऑलवेज हैव टू पे इंटरेस्ट। आप अपना पैसा फ्री में यूज कर सकते हो, लेकिन किस बैंक से बोरो किया हुआ पैसा फ्री में यूज नहीं कर सकते।
यस सर।
तो वहां पे आपका 10,000 रुपीज आपने इंटरेस्ट में दे दिया, और बाकी 10,000 रुपीज का आपने टैक्स दे दिया।
यस
तो
सर।
अब आपका नेट प्रॉफिट, नेट इनकम हुआ सिर्फ 10,000 रुपए
यस सर।
उस साल का।
यस सर।
अब वो 10,000 रुपए को आप वापस से उसकी पेंसिल्स खरीद सकते हो, या आप उसको अपनी पॉकेट में निकाल सकते हो।
ओके सर।
ठीक है, तो वो हुई आपकी 10,000 रुपीज की नेट इनकम।
तो सर जो 10,000 है सर, वो किस पोर्शन में दिखाएंगे फिर हम एसेट में?
वो आपका आएगा ना यहाँ पे लास्ट में। अब इफ यू सी इन योर इनकम स्टेटमेंट, लास्ट रो इज ऑफ नेट इनकम।
यस सर।
Right, so that's why I said in the start ki all the companies have to report income statement, balance sheet, and we'll discuss about cash flow statements, all these 3 statements together, so that you can have a sense of what exactly is happening in the company. Is the company actually making profits or not? So net income agar aapka positive hai, so that will come into your income statement.
यस सर।
राइट, आई मीन नेगेटिव के केस में भी आएगा ही, बट उस पे आपको टैक्स नहीं देना पड़ेगा एंड थोड़ी दूसरी कॉम्प्लिकेशंस होते हैं, सो दैट्स व्हाई आई एम नॉट गेटिंग इनटू ऑल दैट। बट नेट इनकम ऑलवेज कम्स इनटू योर इनकम स्टेटमेंट। बैलेंस शीट में बस वो होता है कि आपने बाहर से कितना पैसा उठाया, और उस पैसे का आपने क्या किया, क्या एसेट आपने खरीदे।
ओके सर। तो
ठीक है, जो
प्रॉफिट
भी कंपनी रेवेन्यू अर्न कर रही है और जो भी एक्सपेंसेस कर रही है, तो प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस स्टेटमेंट, इसीलिए उसको प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस बोलते हैं, कि प्रॉफिट सारा उसी में आएगा एंड लॉस भी।
समझिए सर।
ऑलराइट,
थैंक यू सर।
right. So with that in mind, I think it's time to attempt a little question from my side. So this is a company called Canon. This is related to balance sheet of Canon in 2015, in which its total assets worth rupees 40 lakh rupees, and its total liabilities were worth 15 lakh. So I want you to just calculate what was its total equity.
25 lakh.
25 lakh.
25 lakh, right?
Yes.
So I hope everyone is getting hang of what I'm trying to say. Assets, liability, and equity,
Yes, sir. Yes.
right? And now one more question from my side. What type of profit you will get after deducting operating expenses from revenue? Operating expenses. So just look at, sorry,
Net.
Net gross profit.
Gross profit.
not really. It will be operating profit.
Mm.
So, just remember that you have earned your revenues, and after you subtract direct cost of goods sold, you get gross profit. हमारे example में, in our example, we had gross profit of rupees 50,000 because we had bought pencils worth rupees 50,000. So that was your gross profit. But to arrive at operating profit, you had to deduct some operating expenses as well, marketing expenses and other, right? So after you deduct those expenses or operating expenses from your gross profit, you get to operating profit. And after you deduct your interest and taxes, you get to net profit. So here what I'm asking is, what will you get after deducting operating expenses? So that will be operating profit.
Okay, sir.
Right? So next I will talk about cash flow statement. And this is, I would say, the most important statement of all the three. I will explain why. And but before that, let's see what it shows. It provides you information about what company actually earned in cash and what it paid in cash. And what I mean by that, I will explain in a bit while. Now there are three components of cash flow statement. Cash flow from operating activities. This is what your company generates in cash from your core operations, right? So for example, your business has core operation of selling pencils. So its operating activity is buying and selling pencils. What cash it generates from this particular operation is cash flow from operating activities. Second is cash flow from investing activities. Now your company must be investing or must be spending cash to invest in assets, to buy some assets. So that portion, that amount comes in cash flow from investing activities. Whatever cash it has invested to buy some assets. Last is cash flow from financing activities. Now this is cash received by the company from new debt or equity, right? So the terms that I'm using here are all related to income statement and balance sheet. So in income statement, we heard about operating expenses or operating profit or net income. That is used in cash flow from operating activities, cash generated from its core operations. In balance sheet, I use the term assets. That is used in cash flow from investing activities. Cash used by the company to invest in assets. And in balance sheet, again, I talked about debt and equity. That is used in cash flow from financing activities. Now, for a successful and sustainable business model, whatever cash you are generating from your business, whatever income or profit you are generating from your business, that should be sufficient to further invest in your assets, in investing activities. And you should not be, raising new debt or equity on a regular basis for a healthy business, right? So what I mean by this is, let's take our example of buying and selling pencils. Initially, you invested your money, your equity of 30,000 rupees and debt of 20,000 rupees you borrowed to run your business, right? So that cash inflow into the company will come under cash flow from financing activities, right? Your company has received some cash in debt or equity form, and the company used that cash to buy some assets, to buy pencils. That will come into cash flow from investing activities. The company has used that cash, and whatever profit the company has generated, the 10,000 rupee profit, that will come into cash flow from operating activities, right? Now that 10 for the second year. So all this happened in first year. In first year, you used new debt or equity, that's fine. But in second year, that 10,000 rupees profit that you generated in your first year, that should be sufficient to run your business in second year. You should not be borrowing more money or bringing in your money to run in second year as well. So your business should be self-sustaining. It should be generating enough cash itself to grow. So that's how, while you are in a startup, maybe initially 5 to 10 years, this is not true. But whenever as you grow and you become more mature, this needs to be true. Otherwise, you will go bankrupt in no time, because you can't just keep on using others' money to run your business. You will have to pay consequences for that. So how it is linked to profit and loss and balance sheet, I'll talk about that in a while.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
So can you please explain cash from operating activities once again? Not clear
Right.
to me.
Right. So do you remember what we discussed in profit and loss statement? Right. So we had revenues of rupees 1 lakh, but at the end we had net income of just rupees 10,000. Right. Your profit was rupees 10,000.
Yes, sir.
So that was your cash from operating activities. That's it. Your operating activity is buying and selling pencils. Cash you generated from that operation is rupees 10,000. That is your cash flow from operating activities.
So 10,000 is the money which we are left with at the end when we
Right.
when we deduct all the cost of operation and all.
Right. Right. So you
So
have
that is
generated
cash
that extra cash. You have generated that excess cash.
Yes, sir.
Right. So it was not there in the start. You have generated that from your customers. So that is your profit. And
Okay.
it will also reflect in your cash flow statement. So you have actually received that cash, right?
Yes, sir.
So where will you show it in your statement? One is your net income and two is your cash flow from operating activities. And why do you show it in cash flow from operating activities? To show others that you have 10,000 rupees excess, which you will be using to reinvest in your business.
Okay, sir.
At the end of the day, it's all about cash. You can generate as much profits you want on your profit and loss statement, but at the end of the day, what other investors or other people analyze is what exactly you have in your cash. And I will explain in a while why net income is not always equal to cash. So this example, this was a very simple example in which I am telling you that net income of rupees 10,000 will be your cash generated, but in many of the cases this is not true, and I will explain in a while after couple of slides. Just hold on.
Okay.
Right. So this is a sample cash flow statement for SAP again. Just look at three main items. One is net cash flow from operating activities. Second is net cash flow from investing activities, as I discussed. And third is net cash flow from financing activities. Right. Now, if you look at the third last line, net increase or decrease in cash and cash equivalent for year 2009, it was rupees 604 million euros. Right. So what essentially this means is SAP Group generated cash of euro 604 million in year 2009. But now do you remember what was its profit? Net profit, which I asked you to remember. Its net profit was 1.7 billion or 1700 million euros, out of which it is reporting only 600 million euro in cash. Now, why is that the difference? On profit and loss statement, the company is saying, I have generated 1700 million of euros profit, but the cash that I have in my bank account is just rupees 600 million. So where is exactly that rest 1100 million euros? So this mismatch comes when all your revenues are not converted into cash. What I mean by that is, so when you sell your services, you don't exactly collect cash at that particular time. So when you go and sell pencil, your customer will say, okay, I'm buying your pencil worth rupees 1 lakh, but I will pay you after 30 days or 45 days. This is a very normal scenario, right? You can't just force your customer to pay upfront. You will have to give them some time to build your business. So let's say it says your customer says, I will pay you after 30 days, 1 lakh rupees. On your profit and loss statement, you will show that, okay, you have sold your pencils worth rupees 1 lakh rupees and you have generated net income of rupees 10,000. But how much cash do you have today? Zero, because that customer has not paid you yet. That's how the difference comes. So your net cash on that particular day will be zero. You can't just go and spend 10,000 rupees, for some other activities, because you don't have that in your bank account as of now. When you receive that 10,000 rupees after 30 days, then you will say that my net cash is 10,000 rupees and then I can use that. So that difference comes when there is a lag between when you sell your product and when your customer pays you. You're getting it? So in this particular case of SAP is saying that I have sold my services worth 1700 million euros in year 2009, but my customers have paid me only 600 million. Rest 1100 million, I will get it next year or maybe year after that, whatever the terms and conditions of their contract is. So am I making sense right now, or is it all?
Yes.
It's sensible, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
And reverse is also true. Mind you, reverse is also true. When you go to your suppliers, when you go to the person who you are buying pencils from, you bought pencils worth rupees 50,000. Now you are customer for that particular guy, and you can also say that, okay, I'm taking these pencils worth 50,000 and I will pay you after maybe 45 days. So you are the reverse is also true. That's how it works. So in his books, that supplier will show his revenue worth rupees 50,000, but he has also not received any cash. He will receive cash from you after 45 days. So in his cash and cash statement, he will show cash worth 0. Right? So that's how the chain is. And that's why I said cash is the most important thing. When investors meet you for funding your company, to provide funding to your company, they always look at cash. How much cash is your company generating? Because there might be a scenario in which your customer says that I will pay you after 30 days, but he doesn't have money after 30 days, or he again delays. So there is that risk element involved, whether you will be able to recover that money or not. So that's why all of the analysts prefer having cash as of now, rather than having revenue worth rupees 10 times more than your cash. So cash flow statement is the most important statement of all these three, but it cannot be made without profit and loss and balance sheet. So that's why all these three statements have to be reported simultaneously and analyzed simultaneously to judge profitability of your business. Right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So this is what I have just explained. Cash is different from net profit. And so this is what we have already discussed. And whenever you project some financials for your company, because so I'm just taking a detour. Let's say you approach some investors. So what you do is you project cash flows of your firm. You always project cash flows of your firm, that okay, I'm earning this much cash today, and in next 10 years I project that my company will generate this much cash. So my value of firm today is this much. It's always cash. And determining that present value of your firm, what exactly is your firm worth today, depends on your future cash flows. So that's what all the equity investors will look at to arrive at your current valuation. And there is a very technical kind of a thing and science involved, how you project your cash flows. It's a different topic altogether. I'll not get into that. But my purpose of telling you all this is that always remember that cash is one thing which will grow your company, and cash is one thing which will take your company down. I mean, that's the bottom line I can say from these three statements. Right. So that's what I wanted to take away from this session, that right, profit and loss, you should be aware about operating profit, what is net profit, and what are your assets, what are your liabilities. But you should always be aware of how much exactly is your company, how much cash is your company actually generating. year on year or maybe month on month, whatever the stage of your company is. Right, so that was the first part of the session in which we have learned some basic terms of finance. And if someone has any queries related to this, please let me know.
Sir, Sudhanshu this side. Sir, can employees, I mean, I'm not from the finance background, but are employees considered as assets?
Employees, actually, no. Assets are something which you can, buy from your whatever capital you have invested in your company. So employees, you have not, you have not. So employees, you will pay salary to them, but they are not your, but they are not your assets. They will, the salary that you are giving to them, it will get deducted from the operating expenses in profit and loss statement. So that's kind of an expense to you, but those are not your assets. Your assets are generally, if you have some machinery. Now, let's say you are manufacturing some bottles for Coca-Cola. So to manufacture those bottles, you have to buy a factory, you have to buy some machines. So, and you have to buy some land on which you will build that factory. So those are your assets, which will give you revenue over a long term, right? But employees, you will hire employees to use those machinery, but those are not your assets. You will just pay salary to them, and they are your operating expenses, not your assets.
And so when we are leasing machinery, that won't be counted as asset as well, right? As we do not own the machinery.
So leasing is a very different topic and it's quite complicated. So there are two types of leases. One is operating lease and one is financial lease. I'll not get into details of those, so because it will become very complicated for others. But when you lease your machinery on a financial lease basis, then that becomes your asset. But when you lease your machinery on an operating lease basis, then that doesn't become your asset. It just becomes your operating expense. So it's a very different concept. But leasing machinery on financial basis, then that will come under your assets. But on an operating basis, it will come under your operating expenses in profit and loss statement. I mean, very simplistically speaking.
All right, thank you.
Right.
So one more query. So taxes is calculated on the basis of operating profit.
Taxes are, yeah. So let me, for that to get answered, I will have to go back to profit and loss statement.
Slide number 7. Yes.
Right. So when you have operating profit, you have not yet paid your interest. So first you have to pay your interest expense, and on that particular amount you have to pay your taxes. So you see the third last item in this slide. This is profit before tax. So you have paid your interest expenses on your operating profit, then you arrive at profit before tax, and on this particular profit you pay your taxes according to your tax slab.
So that means if a firm investing in its marketing and research and development and whatever the interest he pays to the bank or any financer, so he does not need to pay taxes on that money.
No. So you are getting benefit in that sense. So you are not paying your taxes on your gross profit or your revenue, but government gives you this incentive that you have to pay taxes on your profit, whatever expenses you have on your profit after you pay all your expenses, be it operating expenses or interest expense.
And so is there any limit of like a company has only limit of investing 15% or 20% on his marketing or research and development? Or
no, you can invest as much as you want. So if you invest more than what you earn, then you will report losses.
Yes,
right.
So then we don't need to pay taxes.
Yes, so you can save tax in that particular year, but if you have spent more what you have earned, then your company is in loss, and then how will you run your company in second year? If you're not generating profits, your company will go down, right? You won't have any cash to operate in second year.
Yes, sir.
right? So it's not like you can just spend your money to avoid taxes, but if you are spending more than what you are earning, then you won't have any money left to run your operations in second year. And why do you start a company? So that it gives you benefit in over a long term, right? You don't just start your company for 1-2 years and then shut down.
Yes, sir.
So this is what happens. This is exactly what happens when you don't have control of your expenses. When you don't know how much you are spending, how much cash you are generating, and how much cash you are spending. And that's why most of the companies, due to this lack of financial knowledge, go bankrupt within like 3, 4, 5 years time frame.
Yes, got it, sir. Thank you, sir.
Right. So let's move on to the second part of this session, which is profitability analysis. So having understood all these financial terms, what we need to do is we need to analyze whether a company is profitable or not. So there are two sets of profitability, and we use ratios to estimate profitability. So, there might be two companies of completely different scale. One company would be starting right now and have just 10,000 rupees in revenue, and another company is quite old and is generating 1 lakh rupees in revenue. But we can't just say for sure that the company which is older is more profitable than the company which is starting now, right? So we need to see certain ratios to judge which company is more profitable. And there are two sets of those ratio. One is return on sales and another is return on investment. Let's understand these terms one by one. So what are return on sales? And sales, revenue, turnover are all these interchangeable terms. So I'll be using sales or revenue, interchangeably. So return on sales has four main concepts. One is gross profit margin, right? You now understand what is gross profit, but you need to understand what is margin. So when you divide your gross profit by revenue, you get to your gross profit margin. As simple as that. So in our example, we had 50,000 rupees of gross profit and 1 lakh rupees of revenue. So our gross profit margin was 50%. Second is operating profit margin. So all these are very similar. Your operating profit divided by revenue. In our example, our operating profit was 30,000, if I remember correctly, 30,000. So your operating profit margin would be 30%. 30,000 on, you have earned 30,000 on rupees 1 lakh, right? Pre-tax margin. So that is profit before tax margin. You can ignore that. But the more important one is net income margin, in which your net income divided by revenue comes out to be 10% in case of our example, right? So these 3-4 terms are very simple, but they're very powerful in terms of analyzing profitability of a company. We'll understand that with an example as well. Right, so there's an exercise for you. So let's say your company is generating rupees 20 crore as revenue, right? And rupees 10 crore as gross profit. Then what will be the gross profit margin for this company? If anyone can answer.
50%.
Right, 10 divided by 20, it's very simple, right? And if the same company is generating rupees 5 crore as operating profit, then what will be the operating margin of this company? This was the first question. And now I'm asking on this. Sorry?
25%.
Correct. So you see the pattern. Gross profit margin will always be more than your operating profit margin, because in absolute terms, gross profit will always be more than your operating profit, right? So your gross profit margin will be more than your operating profit margin, and your operating profit margin will always be more than your net profit margin. So now here is an example of how you analyze a particular income statement. So there are three companies, company A, company B, and company C. Company A and company B are of the same scale, in which they are generating 10 lakh US dollars in sales, whereas company C is kind of new and is generating only 2 lakh dollars. And these are some of its cost expenses. So can we say for sure that company A and company B are more profitable than company C? No, we'll have to find out some operating profit margins and gross profit margins. right? So I have not done that, but I have shared the slides and you can do that and we can connect at a, offline to understand what exactly is happening, because in the interest of time, I would not like to do that right now. But what I have done here is I have converted those sales numbers into 100% into percentage terms, and then I have arrived at these numbers. And by looking at these numbers, you can very easily say which company is more profitable and which company is not. But as I said, you can do this on your own, and we can connect offline to discuss this in detail. Because the more important point of today's session is to understand how to calculate profitability, and this is the second set of returns that we need to understand. So this is your return on investment. So first set was return on sales, and the second set is your return on investment. So you have invested some money in the company, right? You have invested debt and equity, using which you have earned, bought some assets. So what is your return on asset, right? So you have invested 50,000 rupees in your company. 50,000 is your asset. So how much income is you generating on the rupees 50,000 is a very key metric to be aware of. So you are generating 30,000 rupees. In our example, 50,000 rupees were your asset. Your pencils were worth rupees 50,000. And on that, you earned operating income of rupees 30,000. Right. So what you can intuitively think of is that, okay, I had 50,000 worth of assets. I had invested 50,000, but and those 50,000 made me earn operating income of 30,000 and net income of rupees 10,000. So is that good or bad? That you'll have to answer by comparing with other companies in your similar market. So if you are generating more margins and more returns for your company than other companies in your market, then you are more profitable and you are doing very well. But if you're not, then there is some gap and you need to identify what exactly you can do better. So second return ratio is return on invested capital, right? So this is different from return on assets in the sense, in assets, we use all the amount of whatever you have in your company as your asset, right? But in return on invested capital, you just use that amount in denominator which is invested. What I mean by that is, so in our example, we had 50,000 rupees worth of capital, 20,000 debt and 30,000 equity, right? So you had cash worth rupees 50,000 at the start, but you used only 40,000 out of that. You didn't use all of 50,000. You kept 10,000 aside, and you used just 40,000 to buy pencils. So your invested capital would be 40,000 and not 50,000, right? Because 50,000 is not generating any cash for you. Sorry, 10,000 is not generating any cash for you, any return for you. That is lying idle in cash. So your invested capital is 40,000, and what exactly are you earning on that 40,000 becomes another key parameter. Moving on, last is return on equity. What exactly does this mean is, you have invested some of your money. Now you don't want to think about your banks or persons you raise debt from. You just want to think about yourself. Okay, I have invested 30,000 rupees in the company, and what exactly am I earning? So you generated 10,000 rupees in profits. The company generated 10,000 rupees in profits, right? And 10,000 rupees in profit is all yours. Is your return on equity, and not and banks don't have claim to that 10,000 rupees. Can anyone tell me why? So I will just reiterate. In our example of pencils, we had revenue of rupees 1 lakh. We sold pencils worth rupees 1 lakh, right? We had gross profit of rupees 50,000. After that, we had some operating expenses of 20,000 and our operating profit was rupees 30,000, right? Now we had interest expense of 10,000 rupees and taxes of rupees 10,000 rupees to arrive at net income of rupees 10,000 rupees. Now what I'm saying is that banks or the people you borrowed money from do not have any claim on that 10,000 rupees, your net income. only you have or an equity investor has a claim on that net income. The question is why?
So because we have paid the interest to him.
Correct, exactly. So banks had claim on your interest, they had claim on your operating profit. Out of that operating profit, first banks will be served. So banks are always ahead of you in queue. You'll first pay your interest expenses and then whatever is left will be yours. So that's how you calculate your return on equity, net income divided by your equity. And you want to increase this number as much as possible because that's why you're doing your business. You want to return or you want some return on whatever you are investing. Right? So with that in mind, last two quizzes from my side and then we'll be able to wrap up. So in this example, let's say a firm has liabilities of rupees 10 crore, equity of rupees 20 crore, and generates rupees 15 crore as operating income and rupees 5 crore as net income. Then what is the return on assets for this company? If someone wants to give a shot. So first, to calculate your return on assets, you need to identify what exactly are your assets, right? So what will be your assets, amount of assets for this company?
So 30 crore.
30 crore, correct. Sum of liabilities of 10 crore and equity of 20 crore. And
Yes,
how much operating income have you generated on those assets?
so 15 crore.
15 crore, exactly. So that's how you calculate return on assets. 15 divided by 30, 50% will be the return on assets for this company. Right? And continuing with the same example, what will be the return on equity?
So 5 crore.
So 5 crore is your net income. That is fine. And what was your equity investment?
So 20 crore.
25%.
So what will be return on equity?
25%.
25%. Correct. So now you understand what are the basic terms of financial statements, what are the basic profitability ratios, sales ratios and investment ratios, but how will you use them to judge if your company is profitable or not? You will use them by comparing these ratios, whatever we have calculated, with a set of companies in the same space. So let's say there are 10 more companies which are buying and selling pencils. And let's say your return on equity is 25%. So I'm using the latest example. Your return on equity is 25%, right, for this year. And average of all the return on equities for other 10 companies was 20%. So on an average, a company in this particular industry makes a return of 20%, but your company is making 25%. So by using that comparison, you can say that my company is more profitable. On a standalone basis, you cannot say 25% is good or bad. But by comparing it with others, you can definitely say whether I'm doing better or not. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Right. So last step of this cycle is some profitability metrics. I said at the start, there will be some new terms which are used specifically for startups. And I will just make you aware of these terms because these are very dynamic and keep on changing with time. But the more general ones are, one is revenue run rate. It measures how your sales are developing over time. So let's say if you are generating 10,000 rupees of sales in this year and 20,000 rupees of sales in next year and 40,000 in next year, so you are growing by 100% every year. So this is what exactly it measures, revenue run rate. So are you able to sustain that growth, or is your growth declining? So if you are growing by 50% this year, 40% next year, 30% next year, so your growth is declining. So that's how most of the startups are judged, because as a startup, it's required that your revenue growth rate should be increasing over a period of time. Second is burn rate. It indicates how quickly your startup is spending money, right? So remember that cash example that we used. So burn rate is that only. It helps you calculate how your cash is getting spent and whether you want to cut your cash spend or not, or do you want to invest more in your business. So burn rate is that only. So if you are spending 50,000 rupees in your company this year, so your burn rate is 50,000. Sorry, you are spending 50,000 rupees this year, but you spent 100,000 in the previous year. So your burn rate has reduced, and that is a very and that is what you aim for. Your revenue run rate should grow, but your burn rate, cash burn rate, should reduce as the company matures. Cash runway. So it takes burn rate a step further, and it helps you understand how long your money will last. So let's suppose you have 1 lakh rupees of cash in at this point in time, and you are spending 10,000 cash every year. So cash runway would be 10 years. Like so if you spend 10,000 every year, you will be out of cash in 10 years. So it helps you to understand when you want to look for external funding or new funding. When you are close to getting all your cash used up, then you need more funding, right? Because as a startup, it is assumed that your business will not be generating cash for you to reinvest. So that's why this is specifically for startups. Last three terms are customer acquisition cost, customer churn rate, and customer lifetime value. These are all from the perspective of customer. So to acquire a new customer, how much you have to spend is your customer acquisition cost. So for you to acquire a new customer, you will have to do some extra marketing. You'll have to do some extra sales effort. So that extra effort is your customer acquisition cost. And what is your customer churn rate? Your percentage of customers that you have lost during a given period. So this is very common in startups, right? It's a very price sensitive area in which whenever you increase your prices, you lose some customers. And if you have to compete with others, you have to give your products at a very low rate, or you have to give more discounts, right? So that's how Snapdeal got lost in the way in competition with Flipkart and Amazon, because Snapdeal didn't have enough money, enough cash to spend, and its percentage of customers that were being lost during a given period was very high. So whenever you keep track of these things, you understand whether you are competing fine or not, whether you're losing your customers at a very high rate or not. And customer lifetime value, it's the estimate of revenue any given customer will bring in over time. So you just use this metric to understand how much revenue a new customer will give you. So, and is spending extra amount to acquire that new customer is worth it or not. Ideally, you would love to see more revenue from your customers than you have spent your amount to acquire them. So these are 6 key terms for your startups. And if there are no questions or queries around them, then I'll wrap up, or otherwise it's the floor is open for questions or queries.
Students, you can ask your queries from Mr. Rahul if you still have queries.
So what can a company do to increase its free cash flows?
Free cash flows, the best you can do is you can increase your cash flow from operating activities and reduce your cash from investing activities. What I mean by that is you should ideally build a business that generates enough cash by itself, that has some loyal customer base, which will give you revenue and in turn cash. So your cash flow from generating activities will increase, right? And that business should also not demand much cash reinvestment. That's how you can grow your free cash flows, by increasing your cash from your operations and by reducing your investments. And in a startup ecosystem, for initial you can say 3 to 5 years, free cash flow is always negative. There is no business in the startup world, in the startup community. And by startup, I mean mostly these tech communities, right? These tech startups. So in those, you will have to invest more than what you are earning to help your business at least gain a sizable scale. And after that, your free cash flow will turn positive. So that's how the life cycle of a corporate works. Initially, you will need more funding and you will see less revenue and less free cash flow. And gradually, as you move ahead in the corporate life cycle, as you become more mature, your external funding need go down and your revenue and your cash flows become more positive. Right.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir, sometimes a company can be valuated using its equity and how much cost they want to generate from an investor. So how do they do that?
See, for a company to get, for you to value a company, you can either value it on the basis of your equity or combination of your equity and debt, right? So ideally what you would want is, let's say you have infused some equity in your company and you are expecting returns of 20%, right? Like we have seen in this example, but your company is generating 15% only. So what would you say? Is your valuation correct, or is the company performing badly? That is the fundamental question. So you need to understand at the start what exactly return on equity can your company provide you, and whether it is worth and whether it is acceptable to you or not, right? So it's your return expectation is different for different people. Maybe your expectation from your company is of 20% return, and some other person's expectation is just 10% return. He's very satisfied, he's not that ambitious, and his return expectation is just 10%. And your company is uh, can generate only 15% return. So for you, starting that business is not worth it. You will look for something else which can generate more than 20%. But for that other person, 15% return is enough. So valuation, it's different for different people. It depends on how you project your companies, how much you reinvest in your companies, and how much investors see your company as worth. Right. So valuation is a different ballgame altogether. Valuation depends only on cash, like I mentioned, and how to value your company. How there are very different methodologies. You can use discounting cash flows. You can use price to equity ratios, and you can use price to equity ratio to value stocks as well. Equity stocks that trade in stock market. So there are very different metrics, and it's a different ballgame altogether, and it requires some understanding and spending of time as well. And if you're interested, we can connect offline to discuss it further. Otherwise, for now, this would be my response.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Right.
Students, any other
So
queries?
yes, ma'am. One more, please. So let's assume like I own a company, which a B2B company, and so after a year, I decided to I should also start the processing of its company so that it also becomes a B2C company. So, sir, what money I can spend on that? That money would be net profit, or that I can spend a part of money from operating profit?
I would say neither. Operating profit, definitely not, because that is just on books. Operating, you can spend only that amount what you have in cash today. Right? You
Yes, sir.
can't just say to your supplier that, okay, I have 10,000 rupees as operating profit in my books, so you give me goods worth rupees 10,000. He will not accept that, right? He will ask you for cash.
Yes, sir.
And that is the key difference between net profit and cash. So operating profit, definitely not. You cannot spend that. It's just on books. is just a methodology to arrive at your net profit. Net profit, if whatever you are getting as net profit is your cash, then you can spend that. And like I said, if your net profit is also expected to come at a late stage, maybe after 30 days or 40 days, so you can't spend even that today. You can spend that when it gets realized into cash, that is after 30 or 40 days. So the amount that you can spend is your cash flow from operating activities. Understood?
Yes, so that means the money whatever we have in cash after deducting tax and interest, like whatever we made as a profit in cash, we can spend only that money to expand our company.
Yes, because you will see only that much amount in your bank account.
All right, thank you so much.
No problem.
Any other queries if you wants to share and ask? So I think we should wrap up the session.
Yes, ma'am. So the key takeaways, I will just summarize the session. Key takeaways from this session are: one is that degree of financial knowledge is very often a key difference between a successful and a failed business. You know, and we learned about 3 types of financial statements: income statement, balance sheet, and cash flows. And also we learned about basic profitability metrics, return on sales and return on investment. And I hope I was able to give you some flavor of these statements, and you can use them and apply them whenever you get into your professional world. And finally, what are the benefits of the financial skills that you will be learning starting from today if you continue on to that journey? That both your technical and financial skills are important. You are learning your technical skills for, like, you'll be learning for those for 4 years, but side by side, if you start learning some financial skills, then that will give you a more probability of having a successful and a sustainable business model. And in fact, when you'll be starting your business, you'll be going to these startup meets, and you'll be seeing all these other peers of yours having those conversations around your cash burn rate or your profitability margins, and how much capital you have invested or how much assets you have. Then you will also be able to contribute to that conversation in an intelligent way. So that is a key benefit of having this financial skill, I would say. And lastly, having a grasp on these aspects will stand you in good state of receiving external funding from investors, because investors love people who are more aware about their business in a financial sense and not just in the operating sense. So that is it from my side, and Nidhi ma'am can take it forward.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Rahul Sachdeva. So we would like to express our sincere thanks to Mr. Rahul Sachdeva for giving an excellent coverage to profitability and balance sheet. So we are really enlightened with your knowledge and presence, Mr. Rahul. And I hope our students have gained a lot of from the session. So I would like to thank to our students for their active participation. With this warm word and a kind message, we move to the end of the session. We again thankful to Mr. Rahul Sachdeva for joining us for the session. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.